Good morning and welcome to the Daily Connect. My name is Raymond and I'm so glad you could be a part of this time together. Happy wow to you. It is the weekend of worship and it's an opportunity for us to really gather ourselves together and be ready for this weekend where we will come before the Lord and just worship Him. And so good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for being a part of this time together. I want to encourage you to say hi to one another in the live chat. It's an opportunity for us to just remind each other we're not in this alone, that we are doing this together as a community. And what a way to start this day and really this weekend off than as a community in the Word. Don't forget to like this video to help with the YouTube algorithm to really promote God's Word into the feed of other people's YouTube streams or YouTube feeds. If you haven't done so already, subscribe and be notified of when a new live stream or a new video gets uploaded. And then also share this video if it helps other people. Let's really get God's Word out there and into the hands of those who most desperately need it. All right, with that, we're going to dive right into it. We're looking at Exodus chapter 38. Exodus chapter 38. So pull up a comfortable chair, something warm to drink, and let's open up our Bibles to Exodus chapter 38. We're going to look at, yet again, another set of verses that on the surface may seem very, very boring, but the reality is this is God speaking to us. What would He say to us right now with regards to all these details that He's sharing? Thus far, we have been looking at the book of Exodus. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, we've been going over the book of Exodus. We're at the tail end of it right now. Exodus, if you were to look at it from a 10,000 square foot, 10,000 feet view, you are looking at essentially two major narratives. One, the release from enslavement in Egypt, and then the second part, this establishing of this new covenant with this newly minted nation of Israel. We have gone over all the different details about this covenant that God is reestablishing with His people, and we are also going over a number of details, very specific instructions about how to worship, the way these people are to encounter the Lord. And right here, this is Tabernacle construction, part 3. Boring details on the surface, but I want to encourage you, try to take a look at the theme. Is there a theme in all of this? I subtitled this, Everyone's Effort to Make Worship. That should give away a little bit of what I'm going to be focusing on. All right, let's dive right into it. Starting from verse 1. He made the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood. 5 cubits was its length, and 5 cubits its breadth. It was square, and 3 cubits was its height. He made horns for it on its 4 corners. Its horns were of one piece with it, and he overlaid it with bronze. And he made all the utensils of the altar, the pots and the shovels, the basins, the forks, and the fire pans. He made all its utensils of bronze. He made for the altar a grating, a network of bronze under its ledge, extending halfway down. He cast 4 rings on the 4 corners of the bronze grating as holders for the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with bronze. He put the poles through the rings on the sides of the altar to carry it with them. He made it hollow with boards. Now, looking at these verses, what do we see? We get a glimpse of the items, the furniture, the utensils that are being made in the outer courtyard now. This bronze, this altar of burnt offering is made of bronze. Now, if you recall, some of the things that in a sense make direct contact with God are overlaid with gold or are made of solid gold. But things outside, things in the courtyard that are going to be used for the sacrifices, they're made of bronze. And these instructions that we're reading here about the altar for the burnt offerings is pretty much almost verbatim the details from Exodus chapter 27, verses 1 through 8. I mean, again, the smallest of details here, the smallest differences is in Exodus chapter 27, it's in the present tense. Make. You shall make. Make this. Here, it is Bezalel who has made these things, him and his craftsmen. Let's continue on. Starting from verse 8, he made the basin of bronze and its stand of bronze from the mirrors of the ministering women who ministered in the entrance of the tent of meeting. Now, this one verse is very different from all the others in that even from Exodus chapter 30, verses 17 through 21, there are no specifications as far as this bronze basin is concerned. If you go back to Exodus chapter 27, it focused mostly, in fact, the majority of the verses there speak to how it's going to be used. But as far as the details of how it's made, what size and all that, it's very sparse. In fact, there are no details other than the fact that it's made of bronze. The specifics here that are mentioned in this particular chapter, the mirrors. What are these mirrors? Well, the mirrors that they're referring to are not the ones that we understand it today. They're not made of glass. In fact, these mirrors that they have are actually most likely flat pieces of copper or bronze that have been highly polished to that mirror finish. Hence, these are the little mirrors that these women are bringing forth. Now, the next question I'm sure many of us may be asking is, who are these women? Who are these women that are qualified, that are working at the entrance of the tent of meeting? Well, if we look ahead to Numbers chapter 4, verse 23, we see that the workforce for the tabernacle is not limited to just the Levites. There are some people that are outside of that circle that are qualified to serve at the entrance of the tent of meeting. It didn't specify men, so it could be men and women that are qualified for the work at the tent of meeting. Not inside the tent of meeting, mind you, but at the entrance of it, or even just being able to approach the outer court. The only other instance of women who served at the entrance of the tent of meeting is not a flattering one, coming from 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 22. This is just that brief mention of Eli's sons having inappropriate relationships with the women that were working at the tent, at the entrance of the tent of meeting. So, but that's just one other instance, the only other instance of this mention of these women. Let's continue on, starting from verse 9. And he made the court for the south side. The hangings of the court were of fine twined linen, 100 cubits. Their 20 pillars and their 20 bases were of bronze, But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. For the north side there were hangings of 100 cubits. Their 20 pillars and their 20 bases were of bronze, but the hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. And for the west side there were hangings of 50 cubits, their 10 pillars and their 10 bases. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. And for the front of the east, 50 cubits. The hangings for one side of the gate were 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and 3 bases. And for the other side, and so for the other side, on both sides of the gate of the court were hangings of 15 cubits, and their 3 pillars and their 3 bases. All the hangings around the court were of fine twined linen, and the bases for the pillars were of bronze. But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. The overlaying of their capitals were also of silver, and all the pillars of the courts were filleted with silver. And the screen of the gate of the court was embroidered with needlework in blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twined linen. It was 20 cubits long and 5 cubits high in its breadth, corresponding to the hangings of the court. And their pillars were 4 in number. Their 4 bases were of bronze, their hooks of silver, and overlaying of their capitals and their fillets of silver. And all the pegs for the tabernacle and for the court all around were of bronze. Now, really simple with regards to this section that we just read. These are just instructions given also in Exodus chapter 27, verses 9 through 19. Now, if you notice, as these details are being mentioned in these chapters that we've been looking at, they kind of bounce around from the instructions that God gave directly to Moses. But there is a specific order in which these things are being made. As we talked about before, there was the framing. In Exodus chapter 36, there was the framing of the tabernacle. Exodus chapter 37, there was the furniture and the utensils of the tent of meeting, inside the tent of meeting that was essentially where God would be inhabiting. God would be present. Now, Exodus 38, we're talking about the outer court. So there's a progression in the construction of all these different things, and it's a rearranging of the details from chapters 25 through 30. And I think it's important to note that. So here we've been talking about chapters 27 and then a brief mention from chapter 30. Let's continue on here. Starting from verse 21. These are the records of the tabernacle of the testimony, as they were recorded at the commandment of Moses, the responsibility of the Levites under the direction of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest, Bezalel, the son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Lord commanded Moses, and with him was Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver and designer and embroiderer in blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twined linen. All the gold that was used for the work in all the construction of the sanctuary, the gold from the offering, was 29 talents and 730 shekels by the shekel of the sanctuary. The silver from those of the congregation who were recorded was 100 talents and 1,775 shekels by the shekel of the sanctuary. A bekah a head, that is half a shekel, by the shekel of the sanctuary. for everyone who was listed in the records from 20 years old and upward, for 603,550 men. The 100 talents of silver were for casting the bases of the sanctuary and the bases of the veil. 100 bases for the 100 talents, a talent a base. And of the 1,775 shekels, he made hooks for the pillars and overlaid their capitals and made fillets for them. The bronze that was offered was 70 talents and 240 shekels, 2,400 shekels. With it, he made the bases for the entrance of the tent of meeting, the bronze altar, and the bronze grating for it, and all the utensils of the altar, and the bases around the court, and the bases of the gate of the court, all the pegs of the tabernacle, and all the pegs around the court. Whew! That is a lot of detail there. Now, this here, however, is not a repetition or any specific directions from those previous chapters, other than to take a census. And this section is actually a catalog of all the materials that were used in the construction of the tabernacle. And I think this is probably the part that really hits me. It's not all this monotonous detail, but if you take a step back and look at the larger picture, there were over 7 tons of materials total that were gathered for the construction of the tabernacle. 7 tons of gold, silver, bronze, all that precious metal that were collected equated to about 7 tons. I mean, when you take the calculations and you look at a talent being about 75 pounds, a shekel being about 11 to 13 grams, and you take all of these, you use this legend here, and you calculate all of the materials that were used. That's a lot of material. But all that material were contributions from the community. And all these contributions were recorded according to this census that was taken of all the men that were 20 years and older. This was truly a community effort. As you may recall, the contributions came to such a point where Moses had to send word to the entire encampment, hey guys, stop giving. Your generosity is overwhelming the workers of the tabernacle. You're overwhelming the construction. And it really was a community effort. The Levites here, again, just taking a step back, you imagine not only do you have the 7+ tons of precious metal, but also all these fabrics, all these materials that were used for the framing and for the covering of the tent of meeting and the tabernacle here. That's a lot of weight to lug around, and the Levites were charged with moving all of this, to setting it up, to breaking it down, to transporting it. According to Numbers chapter 3 chapters 3 and 4, this was truly a community effort. If we're going to have worship together, it really calls upon the entire community putting their effort, their part into worship. When we take a look at this picture, it's just amazing. All of this, we're talking about 7+ tons of precious metal, plus however much weight each of these curtains and these coverings and the wall around this place and the bases, and this is a lot of work that went into the preparation, the building of it, and ultimately the transporting of it. The tabernacle, while its size is in a sense not that impressive in comparison to the temple that we see today or that we read about in the New Testament, I mean, it's smaller than a football field, but it's a lot of material, and it really truly requires a whole community effort. And that's my big takeaway out of all this. As I look at the construction, this part of the verses here, this corporate worship of God really is a community effort by everyone, and it's an effort in generosity. All these people gave and gave and gave, and we can't forget that these Israelites, Moses, and all these workers certainly did not forget it. They did not forget the generosity. In fact, it was recorded. Um, and I think it's such a big takeaway for me when it comes to corporate worship. Let's take Sunday worship, for example. Is it a corporate effort? Or are there people just coming to be served with that heart of, you're supposed to set this up. My role is just to come in and occupy a seat, sing the songs, and then go home. Sunday ought to be everyone coming together saying, how can I help? What can I do to create this corporate worship? If we are followers of God, believers in Jesus Christ today, who have direct access into that communication, that dialogue with God, what is our part in that corporate worship? Beyond just serving, are you even just bringing the smallest of things, your heart, your generosity into this corporate worship?